A convicted fraudster for chairperson of Portfolio Committee on Basic Education, Zukisa Faku, was one of the names on the list announced by ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule and Chief Whip Pemmy Majodina of the party's nominees for the chairpersons of Parliament's committees the day before the State of the Nation address. Faku, a former mayor of Buffalo City, was convicted on 9 counts of fraud relating to the use of her official credit card and sentenced to 3 years house arrest and community service in 2016 while she was an ANC MP. She apparently stayed on as MP pending an appeals process. Noncedo Madubedube is the General Secretary of Equal Education. She joins us now on the line for more. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Do you believe that this was a decision long time coming?
Thank you so much for having us. I think it's always good for young people to be able to get an opportunity to express themselves in some of the things that they're able to do to secure democracy, I think, in South Africa more generally. I don't think it was a long time coming. I think this is an occasion where young people in this country, learners, teachers, and school community members, and civil society, because 18 people joined the letter that went to the chief of the ANC to say to the ANC caucus, think deeply about what you had expressed in SONA. Think deeply about the promises you've made to people in the build-up to the elections, in your election campaign, and make sure that the type of people you put into those positions, in particular these are critical priority areas that the President has sort of noted, aren't people that already have a history of fraud and corruption. And so I think it's public pressure. I legitimately think as a result of the short picket outside SONA on the 20th, there's a lot of public pressure from Equal Education and learners of South Africa. This is the reason this had happened.
All right, so on that point, the Chief Whip, Pemmy Majodina, has denied the fact that it's a matter of public pressure that led them to this decision. So are you saying you disbelieve that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't know when a time will come in the country where, in the world, it's like a global phenomenon, where government and politicians allow for civil society to help them do the work, to help them identify priority areas, identify issues and limitations that we may have, and work together towards the betterment of our people. Because I really do think it's as a result of us being able to say, look, that can't happen. I think it was a position where young people in this country were saying, enough with cadet deployment, state capture short explains that there's an inkling of corruption associated with someone. They cannot head up a portfolio committee. And that was the basis of our conversation and our demand. And I think it was extremely legitimate.
So when you campaigned for her name to be withdrawn, were you surprised that she was considered at all?
Absolutely. I want to say surprised, but at the same time, we do know the history of cadet deployment in our country. And it's not always a bad thing. The reason we were also passionate and so driven about this demand in particular is because we've experienced how that portfolio committee can be extremely productive for members of civil society and for school communities in general. We've seen occasions where the DBE comes in and has healthy, well-engaged conversations with civil societies, and the chair is able to interact with everyone in a way that makes us feel hopeful that there's progress in the various policies that are pro-poor, equitable, are working towards a quality and equal education system in our country, in our lifetime. And we didn't want that space to be abused in that nature, so we had to protect it. And that's why we came out to that call.
So why do you see this as a major victory for learners across South Africa? Because while I understand that it's a victory from a moral perspective, as you say, from the aspect of legislative accountability or integrity, but why specifically for learners?
Because Equal Education heeded this call, and we represent learners in essence. But also, all of those things sort of tie together. If you aren't able to hold a moral compass in that kind of space, then you aren't able to use it constructively. And the point I was trying to make is that we've seen legitimate and physical gains in the past from that. And I think it was an opportunity where young people were saying, I think there are a lot of people inside civil society that are worried about the chairpersons of their various committees, because some of them have been mentioned in the Zondo Commission, and so we worry about what is going to happen in those committees. But these learners said, look, this is the information we've got, we need to do something, and they actioned it, and it had a positive sort of response for them. So I think the momentum was there. We've spoken to the DBE. the Department of Basic Education. There are conversations around the meeting often and talking about various ways we can do work together. We've been able to get this opportunity to inform the type of leadership we want in the portfolio committee. It almost feels as if a government is starting to be more responsive to young people and into the general issues, that we've got in the country.
Just a final question. You highlighted the need for active citizenry to, ensure that issues like this do not arise. What more can not only equal education do, but learners do within this space?
Look, I think we've tried to more cordially, because we're a social movement, we believe in mobilizing and organizing young people around issues that affect them, but looking at them in a really structured, socio-political way, so people always understand what their identity resembles and what they can do with the agency they can potentially gain. So I think they must follow equal education and social media pages, talk to their teachers about not just joining the movement, but thinking in themselves what they'd like to do for themselves. But also, in that way, it can't just be like one-sided. At the same time, government and spaces like the PMG groups need to be able to publicize the information and make it more accessible to people so they can, in fact, be more accountable to folk and not work in the siloed ways that they do. We're only organized groups of civil society are able to get information into these spaces or get their voices heard in this way. It's an absolute injustice.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Noncedo Madubedube is the General Secretary of Equal Education. Francis?
Thanks, Zukisa. Let's stay with this because the DA, meanwhile, says it will lay complaints against other ANC committee chair candidates